Androids are subjected to horrors for the pleasure of their guests in a Western theme park. When a few start gaining consciousness, it spells trouble for the humans. In a room, Dolores believes she's dreaming and wants to wake up since she's scared. A man asks if she's questioned her reality, and she says no since she chooses to see the beauty in the world. During this, a fly lands on her face, but she doesn't move even when it crawls up her open eye. Dolores wakes up in her old Western home and greets her father, Peter. Elsewhere, Teddy rides a train to Sweetwater Station. Soon, they arrive and the woman comments how the place looks incredible. Her partner says it should since they paid for it. Teddy walks into town, overhearing news about an outlaw named Hector. Sheriff Pickett asks if he'll hunt the outlaw, and Teddy declines. At the Mariposa Saloon, a woman of the night named Clementine flirts with him, but Teddy wants to earn a woman's attention, not pay for it. Madame Meve argues that men are always paying for attention, but at least their services are a fixed price. Through the window, Teddy notices Dolores, so he follows her and picks up a can that she drops. Seeing him, the woman tearfully smiles, and he reminds her that he promised he'd return. That evening, they get close to Dolores' house when they hear gunshots. Teddy quickly heads to the house, telling the woman to stay behind. In front of the house, Reba shoots Peter and pours milk over his body. His partner, Walter, complains that he killed the wife before they could have fun with her. Suddenly, Teddy arrives and shoots both men down. When Dolores finds her father, she grieves, but a man in black approaches her. Quickly, she takes her father's gun and aims, but the man swipes it away and slaps her. He comments that they have 30 years of history, yet Dolores doesn't remember him. Teddy comes out of the house and shoots the man in black, but the bullets keep bouncing off him. Afraid, Teddy falls to his knees. However, when the man drags Dolores away, Teddy starts shooting again. Dolores promises to do what he wants if he doesn't harm Teddy, but he slaps her again, noting that he didn't pay for something easy. To encourage her to fight back, he shoots Teddy, killing him, before dragging a screaming Dolores into the barn. One morning, Dolores wakes up back in her bed. Teddy also wakes up on the train. He looks out the window, unaware that he's actually living in a world monitored in the Westworld Mesa Hub. There, workers build realistic animals and humans while others test these androids. The head of the behavior lab, Bernard Lowe, tests Clementine, who's an android. He shows programmer Elsie how Clementine has developed a new gesture, which Westworld co-founder Dr. Robert Ford might have placed during the last update. The gestures are called reveries, which are tied to memories. Elsie argues that the memories are purged at every narrative loop, but Bernard thinks Ford accessed them like a subconscious. He believes that it makes their androids, called hosts, seem real. Bernard then goes to the control room where Teresa Cullen, head of quality assurance, reports that something in cold storage is growing restless. Bernard joins the response team, led by Ashley Stubbs, in a room filled with unused androids. There, they find their boss, Dr. Robert Ford, conversing with an old host, Old Bill. Bernard approaches his boss, who comments how Old Bill, the second host they built, was always a good listener. However, old models like him break down constantly and move unrealistically. Ford then commands Old Bill to put himself away so the android returns to storage. In Westworld, Dolores greets Peter again while Teddy arrives in town. When he passes by the sheriff, however, he ignores him. Instead, a newcomer couple, Craig and Lori, get picked to hunt down Hector. Later, Teddy follows Dolores again, but a group of guests redirect him. Because of this, when Dolores drops her can, the man in black picks it up instead. He tells her that he has other plans today, so he bids her goodbye. The man in black heads to the saloon and joins a poker game with Kissy. Elsewhere, a fly lands on the sheriff's face and Pickett starts glitching. The sheriff gets taken into the hub, where narrative writer Lee Sizemore berates Bernard for the malfunction. Teresa wonders if it's because of the update, so she orders to pull out the updated hosts. Bernard assures her that Pickett's core code is intact, so he still can't hurt any guests, not even a fly. With that, she allows him to diagnose Pickett while ensuring that no other unscripted movements will happen. Near the river, Dolores invites a boy to see the horses, but he whispers to her that she's not real. Brushing the comment off, she prepares to leave. At the ranch, Peter tends to his cattle when he finds something under the soil. When Dolores returns home, Peter shows her a modern photo that he found. Seeing the bustling city in the photo, Peter gets confused, but Dolores keeps repeating that it doesn't look like anything to her. At the hub, Lee complains to Teresa about Ford and Bernard trying to make the hosts more lifelike when no one wants that. The guests visit to unleash their fantasies, and it works because they know it isn't real. Teresa stops him from criticizing their boss, but Lee thinks she should start running the place, noting that their park can go further than catering to cowboy fantasies. However, Teresa ridicules him for not understanding the bigger picture. Meanwhile, Kissy exits the saloon when the man in black slashes his throat and drags him away. Later that night, Walter pours milk over several dying hosts in the saloon. He then approaches two frightened guests and drinks the milk, but it spills through the bullet wounds where Teddy shot him. Stepping out, he pours the rest of the milk onto Rebus's body. Suddenly, he stops as the ground team has arrived. Bernard thinks this confirms that the problem was the update, so they can roll them back. However, Teresa refuses to use Walter again and orders Bernard to recall all the updated hosts. Bernard reports this to Ford, adding that the reveries caused a malfunction. Ford believes that mistakes trigger the evolution of sentient life, so he asks Bernard to indulge him in his occasional mistakes. The next day, the man in black carves Kissy's head, plotting to reach Westworld's deepest level. Meanwhile, Dolores wakes at home but finds Peter still staring at the photo. He'd been there all night as he started asking questions he shouldn't have. Suddenly, he grabs Dolores and tells her to leave. He then whispers something to her before his daughter rides away. Dolores arrives in town and rushes to the clinic when Teddy finds her. She runs to his arms but tells him that her father is sick. Before they can leave, a group of shrouded people arrives. In the hub, Lee declares that he made Hector arrive a week early, so he's excited to watch the events unfold. After killing a deputy, Hector heads to the saloon to steal a safe while his posse starts shooting the townspeople. Amidst the chaos, Dolores tries to reach her horse to return to her father. While covering her, Teddy gets shot. In the saloon, some of Hector's men are unsatisfied, so they consider taking Clementine, but Maeve shoots them. Outside, Hector declares that since he's wanted in the town, he'll give them a lesson. To everyone's surprise, Craig shoots him. That evening, Craig and Lori take pictures with Hector's body. Elsie, who's in costume, finds Dolores mourning for Teddy. She begs for help, but Elsie powers her down. All the updated hosts are then taken back to the hub. In a testing room, Dolores is powered back up for Stubbs to check. He asks if she knows where she is, and she says that she's in a dream, but she wants to wake up because she's afraid. Stubbs then asks if anyone around her has questioned their reality, and Dolores answers that her father was scared. In another testing room, Teresa insists on scrapping Peter, but Ford suggests investigating why his system was breached first. He asks Peter what happened to his program, and the host stutters while quoting Shakespeare. The man then orders the host to access his previous configuration, allowing Peter to speak normally again. However, when he thinks of Dolores, he mutters that he has to warn her. Angry, he says he has to protect Dolores from them. Ford tells him to stop, so he freezes. Ford then asks for his itinerary, and Peter says it's to meet his maker. Amused, Ford asks what he wants to say to his maker. Looking at them, Peter says that he will have his revenge. He then grabs Ford and tells him that he's in a prison of his own sins. Alarmed, the guards pull him back, and Bernard turns him off. Bernard then clarifies that they didn't program any of Peter's recent behaviors, but Ford recognizes the Shakespeare quote from another role they gave Peter before. This suggests that the reveries are allowing Peter to access his previous programming. Meanwhile, Stubbs asks Dolores what Peter whispered to her earlier. She shares that he said these violent delights have violent ends. Curious, Stubbs asks if she'd ever hurt a living thing, and she says no. Stubbs assures the programmer that Dolores is okay. He adds that Dolores has been repaired so many times that she's practically new, even though she's the oldest host in the park. The next day, Dolores wakes in her home, but her father is replaced by the bartender from the saloon. As she stares into the distance, a fly lands on her neck and she swats it, killing it. While taking Peter and Walter to cold storage, Bernard whispers something to Peter. In the desert, the man in black holds a piece of Kissy's scalp, which has a map tattooed inside. One night, Dolores wakes up to a disembodied voice. She sleepwalks outside, and the voice asks if she remembers. At the futuristic terminal, beautiful hosts wait for their guests. Logan accepts the company, and another woman, Angela, welcomes his friend, William, to Westworld. Since it's his first time, the woman asks him medical and psychological questions to ensure he can handle anything they give him. William argues that they couldn't get hurt there, but Angela clarifies that they can get hurt at the right amount. She takes him to a private suite to prepare. William wonders if Angela is real, but she asks if it matters if he can't tell. Meanwhile, Elsie discovers that Peter seemed to have mulled over the photo he found for a long time instead of reacting quickly. To investigate further, she suggests pulling Dolores out since what Peter had might have been contagious. Bernard assures her that Dolores was cleared. In Westworld, Dolores goes to her usual routine but suddenly gets overwhelmed and sees the townspeople dead. Maeve snaps her out of it, and Dolores tells her that these violent delights have violent ends, before reverting to her usual programming. Meanwhile, William is in costume and enters a door that leads to a Western-themed pub. Logan joins him and the pub moves, making William realize that they're already on the train. As they stare out the window, Logan is excited to see how the place will bring out who William really is. During this, Sheriff Reed sentences Lawrence to death when they're interrupted by the man in black. He kills the sheriff and his posse before approaching Lawrence, noting that Kissy sent him there. He tosses Kissy's scalp to him, identifying the tattoo as a maze where the game's deepest level is. He wants Lawrence to help him find the entrance, so he takes the rope around his neck and uses it as a leash to pull him. In the saloon, Maeve flirts with a guest when he suddenly remembers someone getting killed, making her pause. Because of this, she's taken to the hub. Since she doesn't convince the guest and her number of customers was lowering, Maeve might get decommissioned. To avoid this, they program her to be more aggressive. Soon, the train arrives at Sweetwater Station. When someone is thrown off a carriage, William tries to help the man, but Logan stops him since the host will send him on a treasure hunt. Nearby, Dolores prepares her horse when she pauses upon seeing her reflection in a window. Soon, she's in a room with Bernard, where he asks if she told anyone about their conversations. She assures him that she hasn't. He asks if anyone has recently altered or updated her core heuristics, and she says no. He then reminds her not to tell anyone about what they discuss, adding that other people might not like her unique way of thinking. When Dolores asks if she did something wrong, Bernard just orders her to delete their conversation from her logs and return to town. Meanwhile, Maeve is back to flirting with the guests but ends up scaring them away. Disappointed, she heads to the bar and sees a tired Clementine. The other hasn't been sleeping much due to nightmares, so Maeve advises her to wake herself up to avoid the dreams. In the hub, a worker reports to Stubbs that Maeve's performance is still declining. Stubb orders him to make Clementine the madam for now, then they'll decommission Maeve tomorrow. In a restaurant in Westworld, the man who fell from the carriage notices Logan and William dining, so he thanks the latter for trying to help him. He offers him a treasure map, but Logan says that they're not interested. When the man insists, Logan stabs the man's hand before leaving. Logan later takes multiple hosts to bed while Clementine joins William. However, he rejects her advances since he has someone he loves at home. The next day, Ford enters Westworld through an elevator. A boy finds him, commenting how the place is boring, so Ford invites him for a walk. Far from them, the man in black brings Lawrence to his hometown. Stopping outside a bar, he comments how he's known Lawrence for so long but never knew that he had a family until now. Just then, Lawrence's daughter runs to him. The man laughs, commenting how he spent years in that world but still discovers new things. Afraid, Lawrence contends that he doesn't know any Maze. A barkeep arrives with liquor, but the man in black knows that he alerted Lawrence's cousins about the situation. He then shoots the barkeep to convince Lawrence to tell him the truth. Lawrence's cousins then arrive, but the man kills them easily. When Lawrence still refuses to say anything, the man in black takes his wife for a dance. The woman tearfully follows while Lawrence holds onto his daughter. He then shoots the woman, but to his surprise, the girl looks at him sternly. She tells him where the maze is, but warns that it isn't for him. With that, the man in black continues his journey, dragging Lawrence with him. Meanwhile, Ford takes the boy to a vast empty space. However, he insists that it's full, suggesting that there's a church whose bell is ringing. Using his imagination, the boy hears the bell. Suddenly, Ford sees a black spire. He tells the boy to leave, and the kid obeys since he's also a host. Elsewhere, Teresa visits Bernard in his apartment, and they end up in bed together. After the deed, she comments that he likes silence, which is ironic since his creations are always talking, even when there are no guests around. Bernard explains that it's how they practice being more human. In a testing room, Elsie runs diagnostics on Maeve before she gets decommissioned. She sees that Maeve has too much aggression, so she increases her emotional acuity instead. Her assistant asks if the host can dream because Maeve tells a story about her dreams to the guests. Elsie points out that dreams are made of memories, and if the hosts remember what's done to them, the humans will be in trouble. She then notices hints of physical discomfort from Maeve, so she orders her to be examined. Soon, Maeve is back in the park, but uses her stories to win clients for Clementine. While she talks to Teddy at the bar, a guest suddenly shoots him for the thrill. Later, Maeve dreams about another life when she had a daughter. One day, a tribesman held a knife to her head until another man shot him. The other tribesman killed the man and carved out his scalp. Maeve ran back to their house with her daughter, where the mother quickly loaded a shotgun. Instead of the tribesman, however, the man in black walked in. She shot him, but the bullets bounced off of him. As the man approached him with a knife, Maeve closed her eyes, willing herself to wake up. Maeve ends up on an operating table with two workers finding a bug in her abdomen. Suddenly, she wakes up, scaring the workers. The woman gets up, stumbling as she holds onto the wound on her stomach. She grabs the scalpel and makes her escape. Seeing the unfamiliar place, Maeve stumbles around the hub and soon finds the storage area where damaged hosts wait for repairs. The horror has Maeve falling to her knees, allowing the workers to sedate her. Meanwhile, Dolores wakes up in the middle of the night again. Outside, she starts digging and finds a gun. The next day, Lee presents the host for his new, brutal storyline that promises horror, romance, and excitement. He's certain that this will be the guests' next obsession, allowing them to see more about themselves. However, Ford flatly declines the storyline, thinking it's just cheap thrills and parlor tricks. He believes that guests don't return for such obvious things. Instead, they return for the subtleties and details. This allows them to discover things they don't think anyone has noticed before, which they'll fall in love with. The guests already know who they are, but the park allows them to glimpse at who they could be. During this, William picks up the can that Dolores drops in the park. As the two make eye contact, a connection is forged. Later, Ford and Bernard walks into the park, but the latter is worried since the board is expecting a new storyline. Ford promises that they'll still have one and shows him the Black Spire. The man promises that this is something original that he's been working on for Westworld.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.